I am so honored to introduce this next person because he's a tremendous individual, kind, thoughtful, brings great wine to a party. Just saying. Has a fabulous wife who also brings great wine to a party.
Drinks for wine.
But let me introduce to you Dr. Martin Mense. After 2 graduate degrees in physics, two graduate degrees in physics, one can only imagine, isn't one enough? One from Portland State in Oregon and one from the University of Constance in Germany, Mense found he really liked applying physics to biology questions. He received a PhD in cellular and molecular physiology from Yale University in 2000, from where he moved to Rockefeller University in New York City. For the next 6 years, he studied properties of CFTR protein. Of course, you know how many mutations in this protein can cause cystic fibrosis. Mense came to the Boston area in 2006 as an electrophysicist for Synta Pharmaceuticals. But within a year, he was hired by Epex Pharmaceuticals as the head of CF biology for CFTR, small molecule modulator program funded by the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. When Epex went out of business in 2009, Mense joined the CF Foundation, where he first worked closely with the Flatley Discovery Lab. Then in 2011, he was charged with establishing an independent CF Foundation operated and fully funded laboratory, which he has been heading since its opening in 2012. He is also on the joint scientific advisory committees for many of the CF Foundation's partnered small molecule drug discovery programs. I'm sure that many of you of our pharma partners in the room tonight know of Dr. Martin Mense. It is my honor and privilege to welcome him to the stage tonight. The rest of you will get to meet him now. Dr. Mense.
Well, thank you very much, Pam, for the very kind introduction. And I guess my slides will be coming up soon. But I just want to say that I'm very honored to be here myself. For those who have been here, I guess, for a number of years, you know that typically this presentation has been given by either Dr. Bob Bell or Preston Campbell, so somebody from the national office. This year you have to cope with a local guy. I hope I will do them justice anyways, and I'm really excited to take you sort of through the vision and everything that is happening in the foundation. We had a fantastic year. Basically, we call it a transformational year in the foundation in 2015. We acquired a lot more resources, had scientific successes, and really are very excited looking forward to what we can accomplish going forward. Of course, one highlight that I want to mention up front, you're all aware of it, but just before July 4th, 2015, Orkambi was approved, the second disease-modifying drug from Vertex Pharmaceuticals. With that drug being approved in Kalydeco, that was a few years earlier, we have now treatment that could potentially treat up to 58% of our patients already. And of course, now we have to make sure that we find treatment for all the other patients, and I will tell you what the foundation is planning to do about that. But before I get into those into more detail, I just want to sort of hit a few more highlights what really was happening in 2015. You see here that basically for the first time ever, we have now more adults with cystic fibrosis than there are juvenile or kids under 18 years. So it's no longer a predominantly pediatric disease. That, of course, had its own implications in care, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but it's just amazing. And I think this slide also very, I guess, illustratively shows the impact of the foundation and what has happened over the years. You can see basically in the 1940s and 1950s, the median expected survival age of US patients was under 3 years. I mean, basically, kids were almost dying at an infant age. The CF Foundation was first founded in 1955 by a number of families with children with CF who were very compassionate about it. And you can see there was a relatively immediate impact from 1950s to the 60s with a big jump up to 10 years of median predicted survival. But this was all at the time symptomatic treatment. There was no really dedicated and focused CF research. So this was mostly done to just initiatives by these families. And then there's another big jump from the 80s to the 90s, and that is really a point where the foundation then became more active in bringing CF-specific therapies and research forward. I think we had basically pulmozyme approved in those years, and then you can see every 10 years down the road there's an additional increase. Now we're up at 41 years, and we clearly don't want to stop there. I mean, we know, just looking at the data from Kaleido patients, that if patients get on the drug early on in life, like before they're 6, that their life expectancy is no longer 40, not 50, not 60, no, it's past 70 years. And this is amazing and shows us where we can go with our patients, and we certainly hope to bring this forward for everybody. So our mission is clear. We're looking to cure cystic fibrosis and looking to provide basically for all people with the disease full and productive lives. And we're looking to accomplish this, in the same manner that we've gotten to date, of course, by funding research and drug development, promoting an individualized treatment, and really ensuring access to high quality and specialized care. To get to this and to get to our end goal, a real one-time cure for CF, of course, we have to dream very big. I mean, even nowadays, I think many people may think it sounds crazy to even talk about a one-time treatment, a cure, but we have a lot of irons in the fire, and with the monetization of all the royalties from the Vertex drugs that happened in the late 2014, we got $3.3 billion into the banks. It's certainly not going to pay for everything that we need to do to get to the one-time cure, but nevertheless, it was kind of like the whole system has been injected with rocket fuel. We were running on regular gasoline until then, and sort of having suddenly 3.3 billion gives us the opportunity to think much more aggressively, bigger, take bigger risks, and really look at new opportunities aggressively. So I think we are in a good place to dream big, and I'm really confident that eventually we will get to our goal. The foundation spent a lot of 2015 to figure out what to do with the money to come up with a new vision, and you also know that in 2015 actually there was another important event. There was a change at the leadership, at the helm of the foundation. The torch was passed from Bob Bell, who had been CEO and president for over 20 years and really been a driving force to wherever everything that has been accomplished. But then with Preston Campbell now taking over, who was prior, like 18 years, the chief medical officer, I think nobody doubts that we are still in very good hands. I mean, they have worked hand in hand, Bob and Preston, for a long time. And Preston is probably one of the most compassionate human beings that I know. I had the pleasure of working directly under him for over 5 years now. And I think we are really in good shape on the leadership side, and it will be a continuous good trajectory. So where are we going? What is our strategy going forward? I mean, so far, basically until last year, there were 2 main areas that the foundation focused on. That was research and care. Research, of course, we need to enable the discovery of new treatments and therapies. And care, I think we also made big progress and impact on the life of patients by working on improving the quality of care. But in addition to those 2 areas, we are now really looking to expand what we're doing and looking to help people with CF and their families to deal with all aspects of their day-to-day lives. You heard my colleague Azi Kaidari speaking to some of that, and you'll see a little bit more later in my presentation. But so the foundation is now basically, in addition to the 2 areas that we have long been active in, research and care, we now have these 2 new areas, access and community. Internally, we also call it the 4 pillars. I mean, obviously, research will remain the major pillar with the most money going into, because at the end of the day, without that research, we will never get to our goal of a one-time cure. Care will continue to improve, and then we have access, where we're basically looking to make sure that all patients get access to the therapies and the care at affordable prices. And lastly, we are looking to involve the community much more than it has been done in the past. And I'll speak a little bit more about that, how that's done later. So let me start with research. I mean, research, you know that I had a local lab here. It's, of course, the area that I'm most familiar with, that's closest to my heart. But let me take you through the research goals that we currently have. So we continue to look to develop transformational therapies to correct the basic defect that basically is a continuation of the work that has given us the 2 Vertex drugs that are approved. Vertex has new molecules in the pipeline that will hopefully improve this further, and we also look into basically extend that same approach to other rare mutations. The second area is to continue to improve symptomatic therapies, and with those, I mean basically dealing with mucus, making that more easily extractable from the lung. But symptomatic treatments also for me include basically addressing sort of all these side effects that can come with CF, the bacterial and fungal infections that many CF patients have to deal with, and you know that there's liver disease, CF-related diabetes. So all those we look to also basically focus on and find therapies and treatments to improve this. And then lastly, of course, we're looking to advance to the development of a one-time cure. And for that, we really have to take big risks and invest into cutting-edge technologies. I don't want to go over this in detail, but if you look sometimes at our website, this is the pipeline of programs that are in development. And pretty much every time we update the pipeline, which is done once monthly, one could argue it's already outdated again because there's like programs that you could say, okay, they have advanced it to the preclinical stage, maybe they are ready to jump into phase 1. So it's basically a living document. But my main point why I'm showing that is that, of course, there's a big area of CFTR modulation, which has given us the drugs that we are so excited about. But you see all the other areas, anti-inflammatory, anti-infective, nutrition, the restoration of air surface liquid, and mucus alteration. These are all treatments that are not even limited to a specific class of mutation. You know, people were excited when we had Kalydeco, but it was initially only helping like 4%. Now we have Orkambi that helps 50%. But all these other areas will actually not be limited to mutations, so that will immediately benefit to patients. And of course, the bars that extend all the way to the right means we have already treatments there, but there's a lot more coming and a lot more that's not even on this slide. I think last year alone, the foundation spoke to over 100 companies that have newly approached us with therapeutic ideas, new antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, what have you not. So that has been a lot of work that I've been involved also like in these discussions where they present us their ideas. And I think we have already decided to fund a few. There will be more announcements coming. It's exciting. I think you should all be feeling proud of being part of this, having enabled this. We are in a great place right now. I want to make a specific point about the second generation CFTR modulators. You know, those are molecules that will add on to Vertex or Orkambi and the 661 drugs that Vertex has currently in clinical trials. I mean, 661 we're also excited about, and the trials are soon coming to an end. We are hopeful that maybe those are already approvable. This treatment is approvable for patients with just 1 copy of F508del. You know, Orkambi right now is limited to people with 2 copies of it. So if 661 can really pass the hurdle and is approvable for patients with 1 copy, when we already having some treatment for like near 90% or, well, including Kalydeco, 95% of patients. But we know we want to do better. I mean, with these drugs, we are likely not everywhere yet at the level that Kalydeco, that patients have a medium expected life over 70 years. So there will be the second generation modulators. Vertex themselves put 2 of these molecules into the clinic in late last year. I think it was announced just around the North American Cystic Fibrosis Conference in October. So they have shown that if in the patient they can repeat what has been shown in the lab, that really we will be at a level of at least Kalydeco, if not better, once they add these new drugs to Orkambi or the 661. But then there's also a number of other companies that have already molecules that we call into the second generation, so that would improve the Orkambi efficacy. So Nivalis has a compound in the clinic, Bayer, Novartis, the Flatley Discovery Lab has done, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody here right now. Proteostasis is getting ready to move compounds in the clinic. AbbVie with their partner Galapagos has compounds that they want to move forward. And then I've also because I see many of the research. I've seen very exciting data at Genzyme, at Pfizer. There's a lot happening that eventually I think will really, on a medicine level, help patients with F508 tremendously. And I should really then also not forget mentioning the labs that I'm heading, that I'm privileged to head for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, so the CFF lab. We don't usually speak so much about it, so I want to just take a little detour before I continue down the path of what the foundation is doing to speak specifically about the lab. Since early December, in a new space on Hartwell Avenue in Lexington, the move was extremely smooth from our old location, and we now are in space that has more than tripled, I think, our footprint, and it's currently laid out to hold up to 46 employees. It purposely chose this picture, which shows an empty half of our lab right now, as it illustrates sort of all the new science that we can actually bring to the labs, the opportunities that also this affords us, affords the foundation to work on areas where maybe others will not or cannot drive forward research anymore. These are just 2 slides with pictures. You can see the outside of the lab. We have now a big visible sign along Hartwell Avenue, and some of the inside our conference room, office space, the break room. And of course, probably you care more about the way of research space, because that's what you really want to see happen. Research goes forward. So you can see sort of on the upper row 2 pictures of the space that is fully in use. We basically were able to fill that quickly with all the instruments that we moved. And then we probably have like 5 times more tissue culture capacity than we had before. And again, on the bottom right, there is just a lot of open space, which is really an opportunity that we are looking to take advantage and fill. And what science are we doing at the lab? So on the left-hand side, there's 2 areas that are, I would call, established science. So from when we started, and that's ongoing and will keep on going forward, we have been active in the F508 del corrector space, looking for new molecules, new starting points, but also developing assays and helping companies that come to the foundation to assess how good their treatment may be compared to others, and for the foundation then to be informed, is it worth to invest it into those new approaches. And then at the bottom, where I say PTC read-through, that is for premature nonsense, premature truncation mutations or nonsense mutations, X mutations, however you may refer to them. But those are the mutations that are in the gene that basically don't allow the body to make the full CFTR protein that you need for function. So we have an active program with new science that was actually not done anyplace else yet in this read-through area, and we screened already last year almost 100,000 compounds in this program. So that's an area that I'm quite excited about. And then on the right-hand side, you see like 5 new points. This is all science that we are basically looking to bring into the new space, and really with the aim also to enable eventually the one-time cure and sort of help along with all the treatments that we will need in the meanwhile. So stem cell biology is a new area. We have, since the beginning of the year, already a group leader hired who is looking to build out that group. We're working with other leading academic labs to really have guidance and sort of align us with them to see what research will be done in academia and where does it make sense for us to do the CF-specific research. We're looking to bring in a cell bank, to build a cell bank for lung tissue, nasal cells, so that when we have new treatments, we have also the patient-derived and relevant material to test new medicines on these cells. Gene editing, those of you who follow science somewhat or the excitement in the medical, I mean, that's certainly been the most hyped, well, maybe not hyped, but most exciting technology in the last 2 years, where really for the first time, there is now a vision that we can eventually change defective genes in cells, maybe even in the body, which of course would be one way to repair and finally fix the disease and have a cure. Internally in the lab, we are not looking to really drive the therapy directly. There's a couple of companies, I think 3 in Cambridge and then some others around the country that are already active in gene editing, and we decided strategically for us it doesn't make sense to really push the technology forward. So we will use gene editing internally at first to make better tools for our research. And we're also actively hiring right now a person to bring this work into us, and this group will grow. We're looking to sort of get more involved in sequencing so that all the cells from lung and nasal cells that we bring into the lab for the cell bank, that we can fully sequence and maybe do a whole genome sequence and see if we can learn more about why some patients do well, some patients don't do well, even though they have the same mutations, and some respond or can be very well, others don't. So this is an effort that will also support and understand just the whole development of new medicines. And then at the bottom point is stereotyping. That's a word I think that we also invented at the foundation like some over 2 years ago. I mean, that's an effort that so far has been done mostly in academic labs, and Vertex has done internally works there. It means basically taking cells that express the CFTR protein with the many mutations that can all cause the CF disease, and then on these cells we test approved therapies or therapies that are in the pipeline to see is a drug that is good for F508del, does it do benefit on other mutations too? So we wouldn't do that on an individual patient level, but more on mutation classes, and just to sort of have an idea where, for which patients drugs may be useful and where we can push in the right direction so that maybe the FDA eventually will approve those drugs for these patients also. All of this work, of course, wouldn't be possible without a strong team of scientists, and I'm really proud of my group. These are the 16 or 17 people that we moved with at the end of the year. Most of them are sitting over at those last 2 tables there, and I think by the end of this year, of the year 2016, we will have close to double the group. So it's an exciting time. There will be a lot of work that gets done in the CFFT lab. But now I want to get back to what the foundation is doing on the research, and I'd spoken about the second generation modulators already. There's all these other areas which I call mutation agnostic, because as I said earlier, all patients will benefit from that. So we have a number of programs in the antimicrobial space, anti-inflammatory space, mucolytics, so things that would make mucus more liquid, drugs that may improve the air surface liquid. So again, that would be another way how you could probably hydrate the mucus and make it more fluid. And then lastly, also on the nutrition side, like digestive enzymes that patients need to take. So there's research and new drugs coming in all these areas. I want to one more time specifically highlight that we really taking on now the mutations that are not right now covered by medicines that are sort of in the clinic or towards the clinic. Well, there's the PTC Therapeutics drug ataluren that's being tested. That may be the first one that may provide some benefit for patients with nonsense mutations, but we clearly need to do a lot more. And so the foundation has already committed $40 million for research on these mutations that we are not addressing with other therapies right now. 15 million are going to basic research, so academic labs. I mean, this is something which we have done traditionally for a long time, funding academic research, and a lot of the research that has enabled really the Vertex drugs and also the other medicines that are right now in development. The research was originally done in academic labs, so it's extremely important. But of course, then we need to eventually move things over into biotech or pharma for further development. And so there's also $25 million already committed to therapeutic development in sort of the more industry grounds. The CF lab, as I said, has a big hand in the nonsense mutation world, and I think we announced like $7.5 million committed to Southern Research Institutes that have a collaboration with the University of Alabama, Birmingham. And then we're also waiting on another program that comes online there. Of course, I wanted to mention that we are not only doing sort of the medicine development on the research side, there's also clinical research, which is very important. So the lung transplantation study group actually met today in Bethesda. There was a whole workshop on lung transplant, and this is an area that we have identified as really something that was a little bit orphaned in our efforts. Patients that have undergone lung transplant, I think that's every year in the country, over 100, they fall a little bit off the grid of the typical CF care, because many of these patients
are then no longer seen by CF clinics, but they rather go to their transplant clinics where physicians work on maintaining sort of the lung health of the transplanted organ. But there's an understanding that really the outcomes for those patients could be quite a bit improved also. And so that's a new effort in clinical research. The international fungal studies, I think, something very important because you all know that many patients do in their lifetime eventually get infected with fungus also. And there's a study on non-tuberculosis mycobacteria, so that would look for new antibiotics to fight infections for which we are running out of antibiotics to fight them. And then also we're looking to understand pulmonary exacerbations better. And this is, again, it's just a highlight of a few areas. There's more clinical research ongoing as well. So at the end of the day, of course, we want to work towards a one-time cure. And so here's probably the most scientific slide that I'm presenting tonight. We started to really understand the CF disease when the gene was identified and cloned in 1989. So there was a gene in biology, for those who still remember or are maybe working in this, a gene is transcribed into RNA, and then in the cell, the RNA is translated into a protein. And of course, the CFTR protein we need in lots of our cells so that our body can function normally. But in CF, this protein is often either not there or misfolded and doesn't function properly. So, and finally, of course, if the folding protein is not there or doesn't function properly, it results in these symptoms that we all know of in the lung, the liver, the pancreas, the gut. So that's sort of the development from the biology. If we then look at the treatments, even before we had the gene, we had sort of these continuous therapies that deal with infection, mucus, inflammation. But having the gene, understanding the protein, really then enables these daily therapies that we now have with Kalydeco or Cambi. So people can take these CFTR modulators that improve function of the protein, potentiators or correctors. Then if we sort of further track back to upstream to the RNA, there's a company that is looking to do RNA editing, ProCure. They have some of their treatments in early clinical trials right now. And Shire, another company out of the Boston area, they're looking to do mRNA replacement. So they would basically supply the RNA here, this molecule that codes for the protein to provide the correct one there. So that's an approach that they are working on. And then, of course, finally, to really get to the one-time cure, we have to go back to fixing the gene at the very beginning. And so there are really now these approaches, gene editing, gene delivery, which you could also call gene therapy, and that's what it was called 25 years ago. And then stem cell biology. But there's a lot of, so gene therapy was around. The other two areas were basically not known 20 years ago, and even 5 years ago, we had no idea of what potential we may be able to unlock with that. And at this point, we don't know which of these approaches may lead to the one-time cure, but I think we have now the science that eventually will be able to give us this one-time cure. And we just have to take a long-term vision. It's an ambitious goal. It will not be achieved in the next 5 years, probably not in the next 10 years, but we have all these other things that are coming. So again, I think it's an extremely exciting time for CF. You've seen what you all have helped to enable so far, and it will only get better. I briefly want to talk about CARE. The CF Foundation helped set up this CARE Center network. There's 120 CARE centers and another 51 affiliates around the country. 107 of these CARE centers have also adult programs, kind of reflecting the aging population of people with CF and the need for adult care. Another critical burden that these centers carry is the clinical trials. So I'm talking about all these new medicines that we want to bring forward that need to be developed, but the FDA is only going to approve them after they've been going through clinical trials, and those, of course, happen in these care centers. In 2016, I think we're looking to initiate twice as many new clinical trials as we have done in any previous year. So that's a lot of additional burden, not on the care centers alone, but also on the patient population. And so we really are hoping to motivate many families that have CF in the family to consider participating in trials that maybe so far haven't participated in trials. And to sort of enable the trials, the foundation has already added, I think, 75 or 78 research coordinators throughout the care center network to help manage the burden of the trials. But then there's also other strategic investments on the care side. We are looking to basically improve the mental health and well-being of patients, and $4 million have been committed to bring in 84 mental health coordinators to the centers. Lastly, more punctuated initiative, but one that will probably be rolled out nationwide. It's on a future care center model that's right now done in collaboration with the Cincinnati Children's Hospital and the University of Dartmouth up in New Hampshire, where they are working with stakeholders, CF researchers and care center personnel and patients to develop sort of the care model of the future. And I can't describe everything that they will be doing, but sort of the idea is to basically have at every care center already a pharmacist on site who can help, and also to really develop a model of telemedicine so that patients that live far away from their care centers can see their doctors remotely and interact with them and don't have to drive to care centers all the time. About access, I don't have to say too much more because my colleague Azi has already covered that very well, at least the COMPASS part of it. I mean, access is not just the assistance to the patients per se, but there's also our advocacy group, Mary Dwight, you've seen in the video that Azi showed. Her group is very active in working throughout the country with all the states so that Medicaid will cover or can be in all states for patients. So this all falls under access. COMPASS, you see, that was just launched this past week, actually, officially. I mean, Azi has been talking about it a little bit longer, I saw her, but it's finally out there, and you've seen it's basically a great one-stop shop you can call for almost any of your needs. And then at the very end, I want to talk about our newest pillar and focus area, which is the community. So we just hired Drew Borowitz from University of Buffalo, who is a physician researcher who has been seeing CF patients for over 30 years. She's extremely compassionate, and we thought there was hardly any better in the country than her to sort of spearhead setting up this community outreach. And there the idea is really to engage the community, and probably the families who are here who have CF in the family felt that they were a little bit isolated in this past years, in particular since the more stringent infection control policy was put into place, so that basically in any public event we couldn't have more than one CF patient. So you can imagine how difficult it is then to have a group together, a critical mass that can provide input. So we are addressing this now with new technology that was rolled out at the foundation sort of in the last year and a half. This is our Blue Jeans like video platform, which really enables people, no matter on what mobile or other electronic device they are, a phone and a Macintosh, a PC, everything talks to each other smoothly. And you can see here in this one picture, there is people at the headquarters. I think Bob Bell is still on that picture. And then there's people around the country, all CF patients that can basically virtually meet, have these exchanges. And so that's a really, I think, important way how we are now looking to engage the community and have also the adult advocacy and sort of feedback coming back to us. I heard they even had a virtual party already, and I think later this year we are looking to have, for the first time, a real virtual conference with lots of the CF patients being able to participate in that. And then I should also point out, and I hope many of you have seen that, the CF Foundation really had a launch of a very much revamped, more modern website this past year. And one aspect of the website I want to highlight is the CF community blog. So this is something that has really taken off very well. People with CF post on it and explain sort of how they deal and live with CF. And this is really a blog that's well accepted. It's not just sort of a hollow echo chamber. We have a wait list right now for people who want to post on that blog. I think that sort of takes me to the end of my presentation. Just again, you see we have these 4 areas that we really focus on, and I believe that we are in a very exciting time for everybody here, looking forward, and the possibilities that we have are really tremendous. you can see this is a momentum that we are looking to bring forward. But thank you all for listening, and I stop here.